Jai Sri Ram friends, welcome to Bharat Marg. Dr. Adityanjee, welcome to Bharat Marg. हम ये अपना सौभाग्य है कि आप आके आपका टाइम दे रहे हैं, बात कर रहे हैं. वी आर सो एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट. ओके, हमारा आज चर्चा होगा फ्रेंड्स. अमेरिका ड्रैगिंग अस टू World War III is a question mark. That is the motive of America. Okay, because you can see Trump says that's what the presidential candidate Donald Trump is saying. Okay, we will ask Dr. Adityanjee whether it is true, and but there is a huge arm business that is on stake. Okay, so there is a lot of companies that profit from the war. Okay, we will discuss everything with Dr. Adityanjee, but we will recommend you to stay connected, folks. See the video till the end. Ask your questions, any concerns you have, feedback. Okay, but in the meantime, do like the video, comment on the video, ask questions, share the video with as many people, because with your help only we can reach out to more number of people. Okay, we need your support. And also if you didn't subscribe the channel Bharat Mark, please do subscribe the channel and press the notification bell so that you can get notified. Also know that we do send out one dharmic message every day. To get it, you can send a WhatsApp to +16479644790. Okay, and get your dharmic message in your WhatsApp and stay connected to Sanatan Dharma. Okay, Dr. Adityanjee, welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you very much indeed for inviting me to your platform, Sundarji.
Jai Sri Ram. Dr. Adityanjee, question. What is the motive of America? Okay, it's always being suspected. America wants war. The more the war is, the more the huge arm businesses, how bigger the arms lobby in America is. But this becomes strong. ये इसलिए मेरा ये सवाल है कि presidential candidate Donald Trump says he wants, okay, if you have Biden's second term, you are getting into World War III, nuclear, full all out nuclear war. मगर लगता तो सही है. US Army attacks. I'll put my point of view and then you can answer it. It looks, see, because now you take India. अगर आप भारत को लेते हैं तो अगर डकैती का काम होता है तो सीधा जाके डकैतियों का अटैक करते हैं, उस वार तो नहीं खोलते हैं. मगर if you take US, they want to do the targeted shooting. When they are protecting the terrorists in their territory, that is okay, but they want to kill the terrorists in the other people's territory. These are all the ones. ये सब हमें शंका देता है कि ये World War III की तरफ हमें लेना जाना चाहते हैं. आपका please.
So, Sundarji, you have raised a number of points. Since it's an important discussion, I will stick to English rather than go into Hindi because I want worldwide audience to listen to it.
Absolutely.
There are multiple issues. Yes, it is true that United States has been involved in a number of wars. That is number one. Number two issue is that whether United States military-industrial complex benefits from wars. Yes, it does. And there have been instances when US military-industrial complex has supported both warring factions and supplied arms to both and made money through that. So those are true things. Third thing is you mentioned about a presidential candidate. So I think we need to separate grain from the chaff. United States is going through a very contentious presidential election. And it's a different issue that US democracy is deeply flawed. There is no one person, one vote system. And in fact, a person with less number of votes can actually manage to win the presidential elections by manipulating the electoral college. At this point in time, it appears that there will be two candidates in the presidential elections unless an act of God happens or a serious legal issue happens to one of the candidates. But it looks like that there will be a rematch of 2020 elections. And the gentleman you cited as making a claim is a deeply flawed person. He does not speak a sentence without telling a lie. So, how credible is that statement? I think that needs to be ascertained by objective observers of
But
geostrategic.
But Dr. Adityanji, you can say him anything you want. Okay, I agree with you. Anything you want, you can say. But the thing is, one thing you had to confirm and you had to agree that he is the only president on whose term there was no war.
That is true, but it does not, prove the contrary, prove the opposite as true. And I'll tell you why. 2 years ago, February 24th, 2022, Russian Federation, led by Putin, invaded Ukraine. A lot of people were speculating that this is the beginning of World War III. Where is World War III? There is no World War III at this point in time. There is an ongoing Ukraine Russia war, or if you may say, there's an ongoing European war in which two parties are NATO and Russia. They are fighting on the battlefield in Ukraine. Pretty much entire NATO machinery is involved, but there are no boots on the ground from United States because there's no appetite for it. There are no boots on grounds except for mercenaries from European countries. There are mercenaries, but you don't see that United Kingdom has sent a expeditionary force of 20,000 British soldiers to Ukraine. That has not happened. So we need to understand which era we are living. People did speculate that Ukraine Russia war is going to become a World War III. But why other countries, let's say sitting in Asia, why, let's say, a country like Singapore will get involved in a European war, which is basically a white tribal war? Similarly, why a country like India or Bharat will become involved in Ukraine Russia war? It's a European war. Europeans have a penchant for getting into war. After Second World War, they were quiet for a while, uh, basically doing proxy wars, and Ukraine Russia conflict became the major thing. But even in 2 years' time, it has not become a World War III. Similarly, what is happening in the West Asia has never been stable. West Asia always had low intensity conflict either within the countries or in between the countries, whether that is Shia Sunni conflict, whether that is Arab Israel conflict, whether that is Iran Israel conflict. And of course, at this point in time, you know that Gaza Israel war is going on, and Iran is actually trying to take advantage of that by using proxies, and these proxies are in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, the Houthi, drone strikes on merchant navy, merchant shipping vessels. So all those things are going on. But people are accusing at this point in time that the United States response has been very tardy and very slow. Yes, yesterday they, hit 85 targets in Iraq and Syria. These were targets which were Iranian proxies to take revenge for 3 dead US soldiers in Jordan. But is it going to lead to World War III? I don't think so. Because again, it will remain a localized conflict in a region where conflict is prevalent all the time. There has not been a single year when West Asia, North Africa region has been devoid of any war. And I can tell you, there's a war going on in Syria, there's a war going on in Yemen, there is a sub-regional war going on in Iraq between Kurdish people and Iraqi Shiite uh, militia groups. There's a war going on in Sudan. There's a war going on in South Sudan. So war is the norm in West Asia, North Africa region. People thought that so-called Arab Spring will, revolutionize the region and bring democracy. Nothing happened. None of those countries that had, revolutions, those, color revolutions, uh, led to democracy. Whether it was Egypt, whether it was Tunisia, it was back to the same system. So these are endemic problems to the region. Yes, United States is one of the players, but United States has been sort of accused of actually acting too slowly and not directly hitting Iran where the problem is. Now let's not get me wrong. A wider United States Iran war will be a regional war, will be a much wider regional war. It appears that United States does not want to strike Iran, which is the culprit at this point in time. So they are just hitting at the proxies, whether it is in Syria, whether it is in Iraq, whether it is Houthi rebels. Houthi rebels are not totally controlled by Iran. They have their own thing going on. And in this process, the Somali pirates are trying to make the hay while sun shines. So, to take Donald Trump's statements as gospel truth is a mistake. Donald Trump has his own agenda. He is fighting for his own survival in his own country. He's facing 91 counts of felony, and the only way he can escape is by becoming president of United States once again. So you have to see the context rather than the loud noise or misinformation. Yes, it's true that United States as the reigning hyperpower uses forces indiscriminately whenever it suits their geopolitical interests. There's no doubt about it. But whether they wanted to go into World War III, which is going to be a nuclear war, I think that is figment of imagination.
Now they called India to join their force to take care of the ocean, but India refused it
Yes.
totally. They said that we will do by ourselves. We are not going to join hands with you. How do you see this PM Modi stand and US relationship?
There's nothing new in that. India has never joined a multilateral force unless it is sanctioned by United Nations. India did participate in Korean War in
Now
1950.
UN itself is sanctioned now.
Uh, so I'm giving the example. India participated in Korean War on Korean Peninsula under the United Nations because there was United Nation authorization. India has been part of various multinational peacekeeping forces under the under the Green Beret, the United Nations insignia. India has never joined military expedition that is led by another country. That has been consistent policy of India. Even in year 2001 or so, George Bush had asked Prime Minister Vajpayee to send forces to Afghanistan to join the so-called coalition of willing. Prime Minister Vajpayee refused. In fact, he asked the political adversaries to give statements in the parliament against that. So India's policy has always been not to join any multinational force that is not authorized by United Nations. And although India may do some coordination, whether as part of Malabar exercises or Quad, that are not military alliances against anyone. They are just coordination exercises. India will not join any force led by any other country, whether the country happens to be United States or Russia or China for that matter. So India is dealing with the problems in the Indian Ocean, in the Red Sea, piracy, attacks on merchant navy vessels of various countries, whether it is by Houthis or Somali pirates, by sending India's own forces. And India is the resident naval power in the, you know, Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, and in the region. Uh, and it is our interest. So we are doing some public service by disarming the pirates and freeing the sailors, which they did to I think on Friday to an Iranian vessels in which there were crew were
Couple
Iranian
of Irani vessels, yeah.
and Pakistanis, and they did a commendable job. So India has actually put like a force of 12 ships. INS Vishakhapatnam is there that actually rescued two ships. So India is doing its duty, but India will not join United States led, this Red Sea Guardians of Prosperity force, which has been joined by 20 countries, because that goes against India's ethos of strategic independence. And Prime Minister Modi is doing what previous prime ministers have done. And all said and done, United States knows that this is India's policy, but they would always try to, engage further and try to get Indian support. But India will never join any multilateral military force.
Absolutely. But keeping in mind, Dr. Sir, okay, that assuming that next election Donald Trump wins,
Mhm.
okay, do you think, as a president in his past record, he had no war? He's the only US president who faced no war, who had no war in his regime.
Mhm.
Maybe that's why he got derailed.
Mhm.
Now, assuming he becomes a president, do you think this will escalate, or this will escalate when Biden is there? What is your thought on it?
I think the complex geopolitical scenario we are living in is not dependent upon context, dependent on who is US president.
Mhm.
Yeah, the things that are happening geopolitically in the world are going to happen irrespective of personalities. So I think it will be a fallacy to say that if Donald Trump wins, there will not be any third world war, and if Biden remains, there will be third world war. I think those are flawed options. If we are going into third world war, that will be something very catastrophic. None of the countries have any appetite for World War III. Let me be very frank about it, and that includes the United States. Any war is very costly. Some people have calculated if China were to invade Taiwan and forcibly occupy, that will have a cost of $10 trillion to the global economy and will create, you know, downstream effect on the economy of other countries. Similarly, Ukraine-Russia war that is going on, it has affected other countries. So for a world war to happen, all the countries have to join. There may be some regional European wars or Middle Eastern wars. They are not world wars. And to say that the responsibility of starting world war lies on one particular person or not on another person, I think that is not how things will follow through. I think it's too risky a project to try to speculate that if Trump comes, there will not be any World War III, or Biden continues to say there will be World War III. In both these guys are impaired people. Both have been criticized. One of them is cognitively impaired. There does not seem to be much doubt about it. Other one is morally flawed, having legal problems. It shows to you to what low level United States democracy has degenerated to. That is a separate issue.
Right.
And, like in any democratic country, you see in Bharat what is happening. A particular opposition leader is abusing the prime minister, left, right, center, about everything. The same thing is happening in United States, that one presidential candidate is on a megaphone, saying statements that are not true. Even at a small level, you can see the chief minister of Delhi, his allegations about each and every person. Every day he comes out with some allegations. You see
Mm-hmm.
what is happening in Canada, what Trudeau is doing to win the election. Now he says that there is election interference from India in Canada's coming elections. So, unfortunately, democracy is a flawed project. And in that flawed project, power hungry politicians try to usurp the process, democratic process, to gain their, selfish motives or their own agenda. And whether it is Trudeau, whether it is Biden, whether it is Donald Trump, they are speaking to the audience, they are they're performing to the gallery so that they can get more votes. But these are not actually factually based statements. And I don't think we need to analyze the geopolitical situation in the entire world after a year, after the results of the next presidential election, whether there is going to be a world war or not, only on two factors, whether it's Biden or Donald Trump, both of whom are flawed individuals, flawed politicians, and flawed presidents.
That's one of the qualification to be the politician, is it not? So, yeah, but that's one last question to you. Okay, that is, now you see the NATO is completely divided. Okay, for example, Turkey is not far attacking Palestinians in Gaza, the Palestinian terrorists in Gaza. Canada is playing, dance, whether sometime yes, sometime no, and they are all not together in everything. How do you see this?
So the rise and the tray, the reason for existence of NATO, I think around 1948, the first uh, Secretary General of NATO had said the purpose of NATO is to keep the Soviets out, keep the Germans down, and keep the Americans in Europe. That was a very famous statement. After the Soviet threat disappeared, what was the rationale for continued existence of NATO? You had Warsaw Pact nations totally disbanded. Now you know, keep on giving oxygen to a defunct organization. So you're seeing the consequences of resuscitating a dead horse. NATO is a dead horse. NATO has lost all its moral and geopolitical relevance. It should have been dissolved after, Warsaw Pact disbanded, because NATO was specifically geared towards, containing the Soviet expansionism in Europe. That was a stated goal. Now that goal was achieved. What is NATO doing? That is going beyond Europe. If you are going beyond Europe, that was not your mandate to begin with. You are going to fall flat, and that is what is happening. What did NATO do in Afghanistan? You spent 20 years, trillions of dollars. You took power from Taliban and handed back power to Taliban with
Yeah,
armor,
along with all your war missionaries.
yeah, with $85 billion of hardware that was left in Afghanistan. So you are right that NATO is a dysfunctional organization because it has lost its purpose. So you have on one hand Turkey, on other hand Hungary, both are NATO members. Hungary does not want Ukraine to be supported. Hungary was putting roadblocks and $54 billion aid to Ukraine by by NATO countries and European Union. On the other hand, Turkey does lip service to NATO, but they purchase S-400 from Russia. Turkey has its own stated goal of, resurrecting the Ottoman Empire and rule the world just like at least the Middle East that Ottoman Empire did. That is what Erdogan thinks himself as a caliph. So NATO is inherently has inherent contradictions, and that are coming to fore. But who knows what will happen to NATO? In fact, when Trump became president, he had claimed that he will disband NATO. 4 years he was president, he was not able to disband NATO. That's
Yeah,
the reality.
Dr. Adityanjee, this is my final question to you. You brought me there. Okay, that is, you say things about Donald Trump, but he agrees with what your policies looks to be same. because he defunded. He was not funding the NATO. He was not funding the UN. He was against NATO right from the big get go. He is pretty much standing in the same policy matters like you.
I would not say so. He had his own sort of in United States. There are two camps. One are the globalist, and second is Fort America. So Donald Trump belongs to the Fort America and isolationist vision that actually is also flawed. That also is flawed because in this day and era, you have to interact with other countries, you have to deal with other countries, and you have to maintain certain presence. You don't have to be a warmonger to do that. So, issue is that sometimes the United States was crossing the limits. All of us know that United States has been involved in a number of wars, very poorly conceptualized. At least the second Iraq war, there was no justification except for personal animosity of George Bush the son against Saddam Hussein. The whole, sort of reason,
Nuclear weapon bogey.
NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, they were none. It was a lie. It was a war spread on lies. So United States as a reigning hyperpower or global hegemon has done things they should not be doing. There's no reason to, you know, sort of question that. But that does not mean that you totally, you know, become isolationist and live inside your own country and not deal with any international affairs. That is not bound to happen. So you have to be
Absolutely.
realistic. You have to be
Absolutely.
pragmatic and realistic, and you need to understand where your limits are and what your strengths are. And if you abide by that, you will not get into trouble.
Absolutely. Dr. Aditi, thank you very much for coming and joining us and pouring your heart out and giving us the wisdom. Appreciate it very, very highly. Thank you again.
Thank you very
Looking
much.
forward to.
At least we are not looking towards World War III.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to say. Yeah, that's a good news you have given. Hope you are right, and we wish you are right. Right, that's what it is all
I wish
about. And
I'm right.
absolutely. Okay, we'll looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Till then, Jaya Sri Ram, Jaya Sri Ram. Thank you, Dr. Saab.
Thank you very much indeed, Dileepanji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.